This video is brought to you by Straight Goods News, Canada's alternative online news source. Visit straightgoods.ca.
The Speaker already has the tools to make this happen, but what is lacking is the political will. This is required to put these tools to work. So very specifically, we are suggesting to the Speaker and to the other leaders in the House that those MPs who continue to ignore the Speaker's calls for decorum will have questions taken away from them or their parties if they refuse to fall in line. As elected representatives, we speak on behalf of Canadians. We should endeavour to speak with the same tone and expectations that they would have of themselves. Any questions?
To ask you, your colleague Pat Martin is seen as a firecracker, and obviously he didn't use profanity in the House, but he did use it in a public forum on Twitter. So my question is, do you think that your colleague should be leading by example in terms of decorum?
I want to be very clear. We are not against passionate debate. That is why we were elected in the first place, hopefully, that we believe strongly in our views. I would say, however, though, particularly in the House of Commons, when we are standing and representing the voices of Canadians, we must hold ourselves to a higher level. We have new mediums available to us. You mentioned Twitter, and we've seen certain examples of that from all parties where it seems that our politics is not caught up with the power of that particular technology and its ability to spread far beyond normal circumstances. What I would suggest to, and I will be suggesting to Pat and others, is that we do seek a higher standard. We do seek a higher order of civility, because I believe that's what Canadians expect from us. But be clear, we are not against passionate debate. We are not against holding the government to account. That is our job. But there is a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. And we are seeking, particularly in the House of Commons, that the Speaker be given the power to enforce basic rules of decorum and civility that Canadians would expect in any workplace where they happen to be.
Give us some examples of the kind of behaviour you see in the House of Commons that should be sanctioned by the Speaker.
Well, as do you have a front row seat as well. I think there's two types that are of particular concern. One is what you are able to hear through the audio, when the parties get themselves into a right lather and make it impossible for other MPs to ask their questions or hear the questions, and you'll see the Speaker rise and try to control the House. That's become increasingly difficult. The second level is what you don't hear, and those are the things that we are exposed to as members of Parliament, and these can be very undertone, underbreath insults and very demeaning. We must remain hard on the issues but softer on the people themselves. And I think if we do that and cut down on the personal insults, it will also help cut down on the larger noise that you hear that interrupts the acts of Parliament. And again, the Speaker has the power to do this, but what he has been lacking is the political will from those of us that represent the parties in the House to say, if we are the ones causing the problems, you must take questions away from us. And we must start to self-police as well as have a more powerful person sitting in the chair in the powers that Andrew does have.
So what do you want the Speaker to do that he's not doing now?
Well, we're seeing, and I have great faith in this Speaker, by the way. I've spoken to him a number of times about efforts to try to restore some decorum, and I believe he's on side. I hope that to be proven true. He has the ability to take questions away from parties right now. There has been some hesitation in previous speakers to do that for various reasons. I think we have a moment and an opportunity in front of us. The official opposition is saying that if we are causing the problem, you can punish us. And I will defend the Speaker's actions on that. We need to have MPs turning one to the other and asking each other to be more respectful of the place. So specifically what I'm asking the Speaker to do is, if he has warned an MP or a group of MPs that they are disrupting the House and they refuse to come into line, to calm down, then he begins to take questions away from that particular party.
Doesn't each leader have to tell the MPs in their party that almost every day, like going for a car ride with your kids, if you act up, we're not going on the trip? Like, isn't it something you have to say every day? Because in the heat of the moment, people yell out stuff. And
sure, and that happens. I will say this, though, that I have a clear mandate from my leader, and I believe we have a clear mandate from Canadians to say that we must address this, that Canadians can no longer come in to the House of Commons or see it on television and be embarrassed by the conduct of their elected representatives. We speak on behalf of people, It's not just the words, but the way that we conduct ourselves in general. We think that there's an opportunity available to us. We hope that the government and the other parties will be on side. That will be that for them to answer.
What's the penalty for the government if they're yelling out partisan insults or whatever?
A similar penalty. They also have questions, the so-called softball questions that they very preciously like to give to their MPs. These are handed out as jewels and precious baubles. If those are also taken away, the government doesn't get those 3 or 4 or 5 opportunities in the House to do what they do with their questions to their own cabinet members. Look, I'm suggesting this, Julie, that if all that is left is one party that's continuing to cause the disruptions and the Speaker is continually having to take questions away from them, then they will have to face Canadians as being the sole source of the problem. We're trying to bring out into the public light of day, because Canadians can't always tell who's causing the problems, and saying the Speaker needs the authority to take away the most precious thing that exists in the House of Commons during question period in particular, and that is our ability to ask questions.
Are you aware of any time in 140 years in Canada when the people of Canada have not complained about a low standard and irreverence in parliamentary debate?
But that does not take away our need to continue.
Are you aware of any democracy where citizens do not complain of irreverency and low quality of debate in their parliament?
It's a fascinating question. Allow me to answer it this way. Should we be working to improve this place? Should we be working to better reflect Canadian values and how they want their elected representatives to speak on their behalf? I believe that we should. I believe that this place is bigger than any particular MP or any particular party. We should be striving continually to make the place more respectful. Allow me to say this. The trend has been going in the wrong direction. It has become much more personal. It has become much more vindictive in the attacks, I would offer, and that we have seen the inability of certain members, many members, to do their jobs. And so, in order for us to reverse that trend, to get into a better place, we are suggesting that the Speaker be given more powers, that the Speaker be allowed to invoke those powers, in fact, that he already has. Sorry, I interrupted one here first.
Does that include, I mean, your own MPs give questions that are unclever and full of insults all the time. So how is that decorum any better than not heckling?
I'm not suggesting that, folks, there's no silver bullet to this. This is a cultural shift that we're suggesting. We are suggesting that in order to change the trends, to show Canadians, to show you, and Fifth Estate, something better than what has happened so far, we must be willing ourselves to say that if we are causing disruptions, if we are disturbing the debate of the House of Commons, then we will be punished as well. And we are publicly declaring this commitment. And the mandate that I believe we have from Canadians is that they are more and more often turned off from what they see from their elected members. And part of this, not all of it, but part of it is connected to the way that we conduct ourselves. So let's conduct ourselves better.
It seems to work. That's the problem. I think what we're all saying is that nice guys finish last in politics. That, you can be as constructive as you want, but you call somebody Hitler and you're going to get stories out of it, right? There was a reason that...
Well, it's a fascinating example, and I'm curious by your conclusion of the fact that it worked. I'm not sure that it does. Allow me this. My own personal reflection, and know the leadership race is a different context, but I was... some in the press said that I needed to conduct myself in a slightly more violent way to get attention and to get any chance of winning. I'm not sure that that's true. I believe this, that when we bring school kids in here, there's often tours of classes, and I meet those teachers afterwards. They're almost in stunned silence, because what did they just show to the youth of Canada about the elected leadership of Canada? That MPs sitting in this place, this dignified place, can conduct themselves in a way that a grade 3 class would never be allowed to do.
The negative ads worked in the last election campaign.
Yeah, you're speaking to the larger context of our political culture. Yes, and so what I'm responsible for as House Leader for the official opposition is finding a way to increase the level of civility and decorum in this place. I can't be responsible for attack ads. I can't be responsible for... I think you've seen it many times. The basic disruption of question period by an individual member or sometimes groups of MPs who raise their voices to such a point that the Speaker can't hear the question, the Cabinet members cannot hear the questions either, and the Speaker attempts to regain control of the House. The trend lines, again, are in the wrong direction, so we seek to improve them. We seek to turn it around to allow the Speaker to pull members back in that have gotten too emotional. Yes?
Infractions. What are you talking about? Like
Taking questions away. Oh, list the infractions.
Infractions. What are they not supposed to do?
That's to the Speaker's discretion, but the basic infractions are this. If you are disrupting the ability of question period to do what it's meant to do, which is to allow the opposition and members of the government to hold government to account, if you are preventing that from happening, then the punishment is clear, because the currency in question period is questions. And if the Speaker is able to take those away with the political and public support of those that are meant to be in charge of the House of Commons, then I think we have a chance, we have a hope of returning to a better level of civility than we currently have. And again, this is about trend lines. We want to improve the...
You have an example already in the UK, like primarily, where Speaker Bercow has the kind of powers that you're talking about, and yet that House is just as rowdy as this one at the best of times. He has this ability you're talking about. Hasn't changed anything. What really makes you think it's going to...
Yeah, I don't suggest anyone's got it perfect, right? I think there are certain things that happen in the UK Parliament, particularly right now with the issues that they're dealing with, that offer unique circumstances. All I'm suggesting is the powers that we have here, we know the Speaker has these powers right now, but to my knowledge, and there's more historians here, rarely ever uses this specific technique of taking away the most precious thing that a Member of Parliament has. If you've been, to get into the shoes of an MP for a moment, you've been begging, pleading for a question for many weeks, maybe in some cases. You finally get one. But because some of your colleagues are acting out and acting in such a way that even after being warned, they continue, you lose your question. This allows us a moment where self-policing starts to become a potential, where you as an MP speak to me as the person causing the problem and saying, look, you just burned a question that I needed to ask for my constituents. This is something that the Speaker needs in hand, where the House itself becomes more self-policing, rather than the reverse, which is encouraging that behavior. If we can discourage the behavior in a more explicit way, there's a chance that we can actually return to questions that are more meaningful and answers that are more to the point, and behavior overall that is more respectful of Canadian values.
Can I ask, there's a proposition.
If they agree with it, did you check with other parties if they like the idea, or if they...
There's been some informal conversations. I think you'll find that those parties will speak for themselves, but my hope is strong, actually, that I think we can do some things like this that will be successful. At least gives us a chance. Again, my job and the mandate I've been given from my leader is to seek a way to have more decorum in the House of Commons, more civility.
To do that by giving the Speaker less discretion, not more. That is, by allowing independent television cameras in the chamber. Canada, almost unique among democracies, has all cameras under strict control of an elected official. Independent coverage so that every member of the gallery can show to every citizen what you see every day.
Yeah.
Have you looked at that? If not, why not? Why not?
So allow me to start with the proposal that I have here today, but allow me also to say this, that the New Democrats are open to proposals from Canadians about ways to make this place better. Have I explicitly looked at the proposal of different camera angles or different control of that? I understand what you asked. I haven't looked at the proposal yet, but we are open to different proposals for the House of Commons.
You know, we've heard this for years.
I'm sure you have.
So why should we trust you now, and why should Canadians even care? If does it matter how the job is done as long as the job's done?
It matters very much that how the job is done is important as what gets done. And I feel that why should you trust me now? Well, new sheriff in town. Let's see if we can't do something better. Let's see if we can't do something a little bit more. Hope springs eternal, my friend. I understand why we've seen this movie before and we say, well, it's all for naught. But that does not disallow us from trying to do things better.
Does it get the Speaker to kick people out? I mean,
what's that?
If your kids are acting up, if you act up
you
in school,
want the Speaker to give timeouts?
No, but why don't you just say you don't want to be here, get out?
The suggestion has been from Speaker Milliken and others before that actually allows an MP another platform with you folks. Why did you get kicked out today? And now they have a large scrum. Well, politicians are good at explaining themselves from time to time. What I suggest is this. Allow us to see what the willingness is from the other parties, from the Speaker, to invoke a new set of guidelines for the way that question period is conducted. Let's see if there is any proof in the pudding.